My sister-in-law is the family's favorite. When she suffered from kidney failure, my husband didn't hesitate to give her our own daughter's kidney. He said, "You can live with just one kidney." Later, when my daughter also developed kidney failure, no one came to her rescue. His family wouldn't even cover the medical expenses. She jumped off a building, and I lost my mind. My husband was intimately cuddling with my sister-in-law's best friend during their dinner gathering. I secretly added half a pound of arsenic. When I opened my eyes again, I had traveled back to the day before I was forced to donate my daughter's kidney. I was strangled to death by my husband, Bob. He died a miserable death, his head smashed against the wall, blood splattered all over his face, making him look exceptionally terrifying. His face was full of hatred. "Lucy, are you fucking insane?" I laughed and coughed at the same time, blood continuously trickling from the corner of my mouth. "Mia is dead. We all deserve to die. It hurts a lot, but I'm very happy because I can finally go to be with her. My sister-in-law, mother-in-law, and my husband's mistress are all dead. Bob won't survive either. One life in exchange for 4 lives. I'm not at a loss." When I opened my eyes again, I was washing up in the bathroom, staring at the unfamiliar yet familiar face in the mirror. I was stunned. Catching sight of the date on the phone beside me, tears began to stream uncontrollably down my face. April 11th, 2023, tomorrow, was the day they tricked my daughter into going to the hospital and had one of her kidneys removed. I immediately booked a flight 2 hours later. It was the only one available today, and I absolutely couldn't miss it. I handed over my work to a colleague. A promotion opportunity is nothing compared to my Mia. I didn't even have time to pack my luggage. I just grabbed my ID and phone and rushed off. The moment I sat down on the plane, tears started streaming down my face uncontrollably, silently praying in my heart, "Mia, wait for me." I closed my eyes, formulating a plan of revenge in my mind. Not only will I rescue my daughter, but I won't let those people go either. As the plane touched down, I let out a slight sigh of relief. It's Monday, and Mia is still at school. I took a taxi directly to the school. I had to pick up my daughter early and take her to a safe place. I called her homeroom teacher, but she didn't answer. So I sent a message, "Teacher Linda, there's an important matter at home. Mia needs to take a week off. I'm on my way to pick her up now." By the time I was almost at the school, Teacher Linda finally called. "Hello, Mia's parent. I couldn't answer earlier as I was in class. Your husband already requested leave for her yesterday, so she didn't attend class today." My heart sank. This is troublesome. I didn't expect them to act so quickly. After hanging up, I immediately called my best friend. "Heidi, it's urgent. Can you check the inpatient list at BA Hospital, see if there are any room numbers for Mia and Lisa?" BA Hospital was where they had the kidney transplant in their previous life. Lisa is my sister-in-law, the person I dislike the most. "Okay, don't worry, give me half an hour." My best friend didn't ask anything. She understood me. I told the driver to hurry home. Closing my eyes, I kept praying. My daughter is at home, waiting for me. When I got out of the car, my legs felt weak. Stumbling, I opened the door. No one was home. Mia must have been taken to the hospital by them. I went to the bathroom and washed my face with cold water. Then I went to the bedroom and took all my ID cards, bank cards, and jewelry, including the gold items I had given to my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. They don't deserve them. I bought them, so I have the right to take them back. As soon as I got in the car, my best friend called and said, "Lucy, I'm at BA Hospital, room 413. I'm on my way there now. Don't worry, I had a friend check, and Mia is safe now." I softly hummed in acknowledgement, took a deep breath, and then started the car. "Thank you, Heidi, I'll be there in half an hour." By the time I arrived at the hospital, my best friend was waiting for me at the entrance. She gave me a gentle hug, then took my hand and we ran to room 413. "Mia, this is the new iPad Dad bought for you. I've downloaded over 50 games on it. You can play with it as soon as you come out tomorrow." "Dad, does it really not hurt? Am I a good kid if I give my kidney to Auntie?" "It doesn't hurt at all. In a few days, Dad will take you out for fried chicken, burgers, hot pot." I was so angry that my head was smoking. That's how he tricked our daughter into giving her kidney to his sister. This is no father. He's worse than an animal. I kicked the door open, and Bob's face immediately darkened. He said gloomily, "Weren't you on a business trip? Why did you come back without telling me?" I slapped him across the face. With a crisp smack, Bob was left utterly bewildered. My best friend stood at the door, holding her daughter's hand. I said coldly, "Who gave you permission to take Mia's kidney?" He touched his face and said, "I'm her father. I gave her life. What's wrong with giving just one kidney?" I remembered in the previous life. He watched his daughter's health deteriorate and was unwilling to pay for medical expenses, even blaming Mia for not taking care of herself. He said, "Why can others live perfectly fine with one kidney, but you're so delicate?" I've scolded, fought, and made a scene, but what matters more is that Mia can survive. Not wanting to waste any time, I borrowed money from everywhere to seek medical treatment, not letting any opportunity slip by, yet behind my back. They complained that Mia was dragging the family down, saying that all that money should have been used to help my sister-in-law recover her health. By the time I returned, exhausted, Mia had already jumped from the 28th floor and was reduced to a mangled mess. Holding her ashes and reading the letter she left for me, I cried for 3 whole days. To my dearest mother, "Dear Mom, I love you. I don't want you to kneel and beg others for money. I deeply regret giving my kidney to Aunt. Dad is not a good man, he doesn't love you or me, please leave him. It's my fault for burdening you and dragging this family down. I deserve to die. I hope you can find happiness, Mom. I never want to be Dad's daughter again. I could send him to prison, but I'm not willing to let it go at that." So, I went mad, and they all died. That feeling of heart-wrenching despair rushed to my head in an instant. I kicked him in the crotch, then grabbed his hair tightly and started beating him. "Ah, it hurts. Doctor, save me, Lucy, are you fucking crazy? I'm going to call the police. You're going to fucking eat prison food." Eating prison food? Mia is only 13 years old and cannot have a kidney transplant at all. They falsified the documents and had their friends cheat to make the kidney transplant successful. When the police arrive, we'll see who ends up eating prison food. In my previous life, all my energy was spent on money and Mia. Now that my daughter is safe and sound, all I need to do is take them down. I kicked him hard in the crotch again. He didn't deserve to be a father, and he deserved to be castrated. "It hurts." The man's voice grew weaker, as if he was about to pass out from the pain. I said coldly, "She doesn't have a father, her father is dead. Everyone in the Williams family deserves to die." Just as I was about to kick a few more times, an angry voice came from the doorway. "Lucy, what are you doing?" It was my mother-in-law, who had come with my sister-in-law. Perfect, they came on their own, otherwise, I would have had to make a trip. I turned my head and smiled at them. "Can't you see, I'm beating up a scumbag?" My mother-in-law's face instantly turned as black as coal. She strode toward me, raising her hand to slap me. I kicked Bob hard, "Hit him, if you dare, and I'll cripple his brother." My mother-in-law's eyes were bloodshot, her hands trembling. "You vicious woman, you'll die a horrible death. I'll send you to the red light district to be trampled by thousands." I let out a cold laugh and kicked Bob again. A son paying for his mother's debts. "Well said, keep going, old lady." "Ouch, that hurts, Mom, pull her away quickly, she's gone crazy." I burst into laughter. "That's right, I'm crazy. And killing someone doesn't require paying with my life." My mother-in-law trembled with fear, slowly backing away and pressing close to her daughter. "I'm your elder, how dare you hit me? You'll face retribution." "Retribution?" I kicked him again. "Speak properly, or I'll beat him to death." The room instantly fell silent. Indeed, the soft fear the tough fear the ruthless, and the ruthless fear the desperate. My sister-in-law forced a faint smile. "Sis, don't get worked up. Let's sit down and talk calmly, we're family." What could possibly be so irreconcilable? I turned and glared at her coldly. "There's nothing to discuss. Mia's kidney will never be given to you." The smile instantly vanished from my sister-in-law's face. She gently nudged my mother-in-law with her elbow. I quickly gave my best friend a look, signaling her to take Mia away first. These people would do anything for their sister-in-law. Mia was already frightened earlier, but my mind was filled with scenes from my past life, and I just couldn't hold back. Mia shook her head vigorously, refusing to leave. "I know she's afraid I'll suffer a loss and is also a bit worried about Bob. The Williams family hasn't shown their true colors yet, and in her heart, Bob is still her father." A sturdy man appeared behind my best friend, and she blinked to reassure me. "Everyone has to grow up. If she doesn't want to go out, it's good for her to at least see the world." The mother-in-law smiled at Mia and said, "Don't worry about this matter. We've already agreed to have the kidney transplant tomorrow. Mia is a good granddaughter. She knows how much her aunt cares for her and can't bear to see her suffer." She volunteered to donate it. I didn't like what I was hearing, so I gave Bob a hard kick. The man couldn't even cry out in pain, only his heavy breathing indicated he was still alive. My sister-in-law's face grew increasingly unpleasant as she forced a faint smile. "Sister-in-law, please don't kick my brother. It's all my fault. How did I end up with this illness? I've burdened this family. if not getting a kidney transplant would make you all happy, I'm willing. I let out a cold laugh. No wonder she's the favorite. She's quite the actress. Sigh, starting over again. Why can't I help but laugh? I cleared my throat lightly. As long as you all speak properly, I won't kick him. Also, it's true that you've dragged this family down. A kidney transplant is out of the question. You'll have to figure something else out yourselves. My sister-in-law was crying as if drenched by rain. My mother-in-law was beside her, heartbroken, and even Bob, who had passed out from the pain, opened his eyes. My mother-in-law pulled my sister-in-law into her arms and gently patted her back. Baby, don't cry. Since Mia has agreed to donate her kidney is yours now. I, an old woman, can't even secure my own granddaughter's kidney. What right do I have to live? Then just go die. Bob glared at me viciously. You selfish woman are disgusting. I must have had the worst luck in 8 lifetimes to marry you. You'd better agree to the kidney transplant, or I'll call the police and have you thrown in jail. By then, Mia will have no choice but to listen to me. You can live with just 1 kidney. I don't know why you're getting so worked up. I crossed my arms. My eyes filled with icy shards. How could I have ever thought a man like this was someone I could entrust my life to? I was too young at that time, blinded by the harmonious atmosphere of their family. My sister-in-law was only 12 years old then, the late-born child of my mother-in-law, with a pair of smiling eyes, and everyone doted on her. They would serve each other food and also tease one another, all with laughter and joy. As an orphan, I was extremely envious and had always longed for a family like that since childhood. At that time, my mother-in-law said with a smile, Lucy, our family can be a bit noisy, but everyone is kind-hearted. I hope you won't mind. I didn't mind and even helped raise my sister-in-law together with them. The family atmosphere was quite good. However, after my daughter was born, they continued to dote on my sister-in-law while showing indifference toward my child. Mia is very sensible. She doesn't fuss or make a scene, and her clothes are all hand-me-downs that my sister-in-law no longer wants. I want her to live a good life, so I work from dawn to dusk every day. Later, I found out that they had been emotionally manipulating Mia since she was young. All the nice things I worked hard to buy with my money were given to my sister-in-law. Mia started helping my sister-in-law with tasks when she was just 2 years old, becoming her personal maid. After learning about this, I immediately arranged for her to live at school and gradually helped her rebuild her outlook on life, values, and worldview. My sister-in-law was very unhappy about the boarding situation, telling everyone that her illness was caused by my anger. I didn't even bother with her. As long as I took one more step forward in my career, I could take Mia and leave this home. In my previous life, when I came home with the offer letter for the position of operations director, Mia was lying in bed, her face pale. She smiled and said, Mom, I'm a good child. You won't abandon me, right? I'm so furious. Just seeing their faces makes me want to hit them. Before he could steady himself, I slapped him hard, sending Bob tumbling to the ground again. I glared at him fiercely. We're getting divorced tomorrow. Whoever backs out is a coward. I've already called the police for you. Later, you must explain clearly why a 13-year-old child was able to have a kidney transplant. If you think kidneys aren't important, then why don't you cut one out yourself? I'll just throw it to the dogs. A bunch of lowlifes only know how to bully a child. My sister-in-law emerged from my mother-in-law's embrace, looking pitiful and vulnerable. Sis-in-law, you can't get a divorce. We're such a close family. How can we just break up like this? Why did you call the police? These are all family matters. I'm not taking her kidney. I just asked Mia to come chat with me. I don't believe a word she says. My sister-in-law is the most cunning one among them. Being the family's favorite is no easy feat. Make way, everyone make way. Who called the police? A stern voice suddenly came from the door. I sighed faintly. You were the ones who mentioned divorce. And you were the ones shouting about calling the police. The police are here. Now you've gotten your wish. My sister-in-law's face grew increasingly pale, looking as if she might faint at any moment. I was just about to explain the situation clearly to the police when Bob suddenly jumped out. He pointed at my nose and said, Officer, I want to get my injuries examined. This woman beat me up. I'm going to sue her for murdering her husband and have her locked up for life. I looked at him gloomily. It was all my fault, and yet he could still jump around like that. I should have worn pointed high heels and kicked him a few more times, kicked him to pieces. It's okay, there's still a chance. Bob is capable, but I don't respect the opportunities given by heaven. The mother-in-law collapsed on the ground, crying uncontrollably. Officer, you must uphold justice for us, otherwise, I'll die right here in front of you. My sister-in-law wiped her tears and said softly, "Officer." My sister-in-law didn't mean it. Couples quarrel but make up quickly. "We can handle this matter ourselves." As she spoke, she winked at her mother-in-law. I let out a soft "ft." Then I raised my hand and said loudly, "Officer, they collaborated with the hospital to forge documents and deceived a 13-year-old child into undergoing a kidney transplant. I want to sue them for intentional injury." The mother-in-law slapped the floor and shouted at the top of her voice, "We didn't do it. How could we possibly do such a thing? Don't just spout nonsense." Bob leaned against the wall, his eyes devoid of any warmth. "Officer, don't listen to her nonsense. Mia is my daughter. I cherish her more than anything." I applaud them. They really know how to spin a story. I just recorded that." The three of them instantly lost their composure. My mother-in-law glared at me fiercely, while Bob laughed it off. It was all Mia's own choice. We're her family. How could we force her? The most disgusting thing is these relatives who profit from others' misery. I smiled and turned on the recording, watching their faces grow darker by the second. My sister-in-law fainted on the spot. The mother-in-law and Bob were anxiously standing by. I guess 90% of it was an act. She was lucky to be at the hospital. Otherwise, whether she was faking it or not, she wouldn't have gotten off easy. The nurse rushed her into the emergency room in no time. The remaining two wanted to follow, but I stood in front of them to block their way. "One of you should go to the police station. You must explain the kidney transplant matter clearly." I knew that even if they went to the police station, they might not end up in jail since the kidney transplant hadn't been completed, but they had to go. I needed to have a criminal record on file for him. It would be crucial evidence for divorcing Mia in the future, and that doctor, I won't let him off either. If they dared to falsify Mia's records, what about others? There must be many victims. Mother-in-law angrily slapped her chest. "Lucy, be a decent person. Lisa's life is hanging in the balance, and we haven't even addressed the assault yet. What are you meddling for? If they're worse than beasts, why should I bother being human, whether she lives or dies? What does it have to do with me? You're the ones who want to call the police. Don't tell me you can't handle it. Today, you must go to the police station and give Mia an explanation. And you must also promise not to target her kidneys anymore." As soon as I finished speaking, the mother and son lunged at me like mad. I have no idea which part of what I said struck a nerve with them. As long as they dare to hit me, I'll scream domestic violence. Unfortunately, 2 police officers stopped them. The police took Bob to get his injuries examined. He said, "It's already swollen, red, and painful. Definitely a serious injury. I want her to go to jail," I said coldly. "If it's not serious, should I keep hitting him?" The man immediately wilted. The mother-in-law looked at us with a cold glare. "My best friend brought Mia and that burly man over. This is James, a lawyer who also works as a private investigator. You can go to him for anything." My eyes lit up instantly, and I gave her a thumbs up. Truly worthy of being my best friend. The man glared at Heidi and said with a smile, "While we have time, let's go over the events again." I nodded and quickly told him everything I knew. Mia listened to what I said with a face full of shock. I tightly held my daughter's hand, and at this moment, I clearly felt that I had truly returned. This time, I would rather die than let her get hurt. "Mia, your kidneys are very important. You absolutely must not give one to anyone. A single kidney will be overworked, leading to many diseases. And there's a high chance you could develop the same kidney failure as Lisa." This is not an exaggeration. Mia's kidney failure in her previous life was caused by overwork. Mia saw my serious expression and obediently nodded. I held her tightly in my arms. "If you were gone, I would die." By the time we finished eating, the injury assessment had already come out. Bob looked bewildered, staring at the report in disbelief. I calmly took it. Minor injuries, soft tissue damage, partial organ dysfunction. I had long expected this outcome. If it were serious injuries, he wouldn't even be able to crawl. If I had known Lawyer James was behind me, I would have kicked him to pieces. At the police station, Lawyer James presented the video he recorded from behind, along with Mia's medical records from the hospital and some payment receipts. Mia took out her phone, and some of the chat records on it could also prove that they had coaxed the child into donating a kidney. Bob clutched his lower body and cried out in pain, "I want to be re-examined for injuries." "It's definitely more than just minor injuries. We didn't know minors couldn't donate kidneys. It was all John's idea." "Yes, it's all his fault." Bob sold out his friend who works at BA Hospital to reduce his own punishment. All the responsibility was shifted on to John. And Bob even proactively handed over the chat records to the police. His friend must have had the worst luck in the world to help him falsify things. The police officer's eyes gleamed repeatedly. Only a fool would pass up such an easy performance boost. I didn't expect him to be so unreliable. A couple of threats and he spilled everything. Ultimately, the police filed a case against the hospital. While Bob only ended up with a criminal record and 15 days in detention, couldn't be helped. He had a scapegoat friend. The chat logs perfectly absolved him of responsibility. I guess my sister-in-law taught him that. As for the injuries on his body, they were all considered friction between the couple. After a few words of reprimand directed at me, the mediation was considered complete. I felt a bit frustrated and regretted not hitting him harder. After receiving the stamped receipt, I calmly said, "When you get out, we'll meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Mia will be with me. And you'll give me another 200,000, no way, unless she gives her kidney to our little sister," the man said, his neck stiff with defiance. "Have you forgotten what the police officer just said? You can't donate living organs if you're under 18, the man snorted coldly, refusing to divorce. "I knew it wouldn't be that easy. Then we'll see you in court." I took Mia's hand and left. She wanted to say something but didn't know how to put it. As soon as we got in the car, Mia mustered up her courage and whispered, "Mom, I can give her one of my kidneys. I don't want you to argue with them because of me." I gently stroked her head and said, "Mia, you have to remember, you can't give your organs to anyone. Your health will decline, and it could be fatal. If you were gone, what would I live for?" Sigh. I've taught her to be too kind. I need to find a different way to guide her in the future. My best friend Heidi cleared her throat lightly. And I immediately snapped back to attention. "Lawyer James, could you help us move? It's dangerous for us girls." The man nodded in agreement. "Yes, you are dangerous." I burst out laughing and pulled out a self-defense tool from the glove compartment. I was in such a hurry earlier that I forgot to take it out. Otherwise, Lawyer James patted his head and said, "I'm strong, I'm really good at moving." Everyone in the car burst into laughter, with Heidi laughing especially exaggeratedly. No one was at home now, so we worked quickly and moved all the belongings that belonged to us, mother and daughter, in less than 3 hours. We are temporarily staying at my best friend's house, and right across from us is the strong Lawyer James, which makes me feel quite at ease. Lawyer James helped find a school and arranged for her to be in the same class as his nephew. Although the boy is only 14 years old, he is at least 175 centimeters tall and has a well-built physique. With a flushed face, he said, "Aunt Lynn, I will definitely protect Mia. I've been practicing martial arts with my grandfather since I was a child, and I'm really good at it." No wonder Lawyer James is so strong. He must have practiced martial arts since childhood. This is the first time I've seen such a muscular lawyer. It's great. It gives me a sense of security. I've also entrusted my divorce case entirely to Lawyer James and asked him to help investigate evidence of Bob's infidelity. My sister-in-law's best friend Judy once pointed at my nose in my past life and said, "You ugly, stupid hag, we've been together for 3 years, and you never noticed." I'm busy with work every day, and the rest of my time is spent with Mia. I really haven't paid much attention to men. This time when I come back, we'll definitely have to deal with it together. A week later, my mother-in-law brought my sister-in-law to my company. Is this meant to threaten me? Lisa's face was pale, her body swaying unsteadily, as if she might collapse at any moment. "Sister-in-law, you should move back in with us. We're family." "Ugh, what rotten luck to be considered family with her," I said calmly. "Don't call me sister-in-law. Judy is your dear sister-in-law. Don't make my daughter donate a kidney either. Judy must have relatives or close friends who are a match." My sister-in-law's face turned even paler, her voice choked with sobs. "Sis, you must have misunderstood. Brother loves you so much, and you'll always be my only sister-in-law." Mother-in-law couldn't stand it anymore and snorted coldly, "Our Lisa is just too soft-hearted, worrying about you having nowhere to live. Some people don't know gratitude at all. They deserve to starve or freeze." The old woman's voice was loud, and colleagues walked back and forth, their gossipy hearts burning fiercely. I smiled and said, "Auntie, I'd rather starve or freeze to death than return to your family. The divorce is final, and the child will stay with me." "Hey, last time I beat that Wong guy so badly, it only counted as minor injuries. I wonder how well you can take a beating." "I'm crazy. Killing someone wouldn't even cost me my life. Don't think I don't know your little schemes. After doing so much evil, it's only natural if heaven makes her pay with her life." My mother-in-law was so angry she was hopping mad, and she raised her hand to slap me, feeling quite pleased. I sidestepped lightly, and she fell flat on the ground, with a loud thud. It must have hurt quite a bit, My mother-in-law lay on the floor, refusing to get up, and she slapped the ground, shouting loudly, "Someone, help, the daughter-in-law is hitting her mother-in-law." The sister-in-law said softly, "Sister-in-law, whether you get divorced or not, Mia is still the granddaughter of our Williams family. You let her come back to accompany me, only when I see her can I eat, I promise you." "I absolutely will not take her kidney." I knew it, their target is Mia, or more precisely, her kidney. "This place is dangerous, but they are not dead yet. How can I leave? It seems we need to speed things up. It just so happens that my sister-in-law has been idle since she was discharged from the hospital." I glanced at her and said seriously, "I don't believe it, a dog can't change its habit of eating shit." I had the security guards drive them away and took leave to go to the red light district. I found a gentle handsome guy for my sister-in-law, with a special requirement: he must be sick, seriously sick. Seeing the medical report and ID card he presented, I decided to give him a chance. I had him pretend to be a gentle and considerate rich young man, paying him $500 a day, with a $5,000 bonus for each time they sleep together. This man's appearance was prepared according to Lisa's preferences. Make sure she can't control herself. Just as I stepped out, I suddenly remembered my sister-in-law's best friend. How could I forget her for such a good thing? After thinking it over for a while, I still feel that the guy from earlier is more reliable. Taking on two tasks at once isn't impossible. Good sisters know how to share. The young man's face lit up with a smile, and he repeatedly promised to complete the task without fail, in just 5 days. He sent me intimate photos. I never expected it to be so quick. He had already gotten close to both women. I happily transferred the money to him and told him to do it a few more times. I could afford it. The day after Bob was released from detention, they came to the company to see me again. The security guard stopped them outside. I didn't want to see them at first, but they wouldn't leave. Worried about the company's image, I took them to a nearby coffee shop. Bob had lost a lot of weight and looked at least 10 years older. "These past 2 weeks must have been really tough for you." "Great. I trust lawyer James to handle things." He sighed and said, "Lucy, during these days inside, I've been reflecting on myself every day. I was wrong in the past, and from now on, I will treat you and our daughter well." "I was wrong. Please come back." I didn't answer, looking at him with a faint smile. My sister-in-law's face was flushed, and she giggled from time to time. She said seriously, "Sister-in-law, I've found a partner. His family can help me find a kidney source. You can come back with peace of mind. I've watched Mia grow up since she was little, and I truly care for her." I sipped my coffee, looking at the two siblings across from me with confusion. "I really don't understand you guys. You have Judy. You have a new partner. Why do you always look for trouble? Wouldn't it be better if everyone just minded their own business?" Both of them had awkward expressions on their faces. A weasel paying respects to a chicken has ulterior motives. No matter what they say, I don't believe it. Bob picked up the iced Americano and downed it in one gulp. "I was just fooling around with her. The only ones I truly love are you and our child. If you're willing to come back, I'll break up with her immediately and never see her again." "He's so disgusting. I feel like throwing up the noodles I ate last night." I turned to my sister-in-law and said, "You have kidney failure, and someone still wants to be in a relationship with you. Cherish it." Lisa chuckled softly and nodded happily. I feel relieved knowing they have a good relationship. I stood up to leave and left with these words, "Bob, the People's Court has accepted the case. Don't meet me unless necessary from now on. The sight of you makes me sick. If I see you again, I'll call the police right away." Back at the office, I ended the part-time job for the young guy and sent him a big red envelope as a reward. Using a backup phone, I sent the intimate photos of Judy and the young guy to my sister-in-law. Within 10 seconds, my sister-in-law started sending messages non-stop. "Who are you? These photos are photoshopped, right? Is she Leo's ex-girlfriend? We are deeply in love. You have no chance. Where are you? I'm coming to find you." "Judy isn't that kind of person. You must have photoshopped it." "Are you Judy, you bitch? How dare you steal my man? Tell me what's going on right now. If you don't respond, I'm calling the police." How exciting. Dog-eat-dog fights are my favorite to watch. I picked a few more revealing photos to send over, then flushed the SIM card down the toilet. In the middle of the night, while I was sound asleep, my phone rang. In a daze, I pressed the answer button, and Bob's voice came through the phone. "Hannah, our little sister went out and fainted as soon as she came back. The doctor said it's quite serious this time. Could you bring Mia to see her?" "Ha, as if they can forget about ever seeing Mia in this lifetime," I said calmly. "We're not doctors, so just looking at her won't make her better. You should find out the reason." what she did when she went out, and resolve what's troubling her. Bob repeatedly agreed, haha, I hope to give him a surprise. Later, he still wouldn't give up and asked us to go see his sister, so I hung up the phone directly. TCH, giving you face but you don't want it. The next day, lawyer James sent me a message. Bob is back in detention again. I heard he broke 2 of Judy's ribs, pulled out most of her hair, and carved the word, slut, on her face. Look, a woman with no status or commitment, just by cuckolding him, drove him insane. He's been cuckolding me for years. Should I chop him into pieces? Lawyer James told me not to worry. Even if he goes to jail, we can still opt for a default judgment during the divorce hearing. Last time Bob was taken to the police station, he sold out his friend completely. John has been suspended and is under investigation, and now he's looking for Bob to settle the score. I'm such a nice person, just passing along a message. I'm more than happy to help him. Once lawyer James sends me Judy's specific address, I'll grab a stack of photos and rush over there with my best friend. I haven't seen her since I came back this time, and I really miss her. As soon as I reached the door, I could hear Judy's soft sobbing from inside. I gently pushed the door open and saw her sitting on the hospital bed with tears streaming down her face. Her head was mostly bald, covered in iodine, and a palm-sized bandage was stuck to her cheek. Such fitting words. Why were they blocked? I said with a laugh. I heard it was Bob who beat you up himself. You've been with him for so many years. Even if there's no credit, there's hard work. How could he be so unfeeling? Such a beautiful girl. How could he carve the word, slut, on her? You actually dared to steal Lisa's man. It's only natural that you got beaten up. Judy's face changed colors like a chameleon. Red, then green, then black. She said with righteous indignation. Is it wrong for me to pursue love, who knew she also liked brother Leo? Lisa is half dead and doesn't deserve to compete with me for him. Once I recover, brother Leo and I will fly away together. That bitch isn't even worthy of tying brother Leo's shoes. When he returns from France, we will get married. Bob is not a real man. The night before last, he couldn't perform. I had to force it. You should divorce him quickly, or you'll be stuck in a living widowhood for life. This is a tough person. I originally wanted to use the photo to humiliate her, but I feel it wouldn't have much effect on her. When a person has no shame, they are invincible. I smiled and wished her, I hope you, Bob, and your dear brother Leo will always be together. After saying that, I tried to take my best friend's hand and leave. Heidi snorted coldly, pulled her hand away from mine, and swung a slap at her. Ugh, how shameless, stealing someone else's man and acting righteous. Throwing yourself at any man you see. What's the difference between you and an animal? You're a disgrace to women. One day, you'll die because of a man. I smiled and looked at Heidi. If you can talk, then talk more, Judy cried, probably because her wound hurt. We only stayed in this room for less than 5 minutes. And the rest was all Heidi's free performance. On the way home, a colleague sent a video showing my mother-in-law kneeling at the company's entrance, with a crowd of people watching. She said, call Lucy out and beg her to save Lisa's life. If she doesn't come out, I'll kneel here and never get up. I gripped the steering wheel tightly. That old witch, she really deserves to die. For Mia's safety, I second-guess everything I do. In my previous life, it only took a week of planning to wipe them all out. I turned around and headed back to the company, called the police, and also asked James's lawyer's nephew to keep an eye on Mia, making sure she didn't leave the school. We arrived at the same time as the police. My mother-in-law only had eyes for me, and she cried as she spoke. Hannah, please save her. You're the only one who can save Lisa. She's only 27, in the prime of her life. How can you bear to watch her die? How could I bear it? I've been wishing for her death every single day. Hearing she's about to die, I'm so excited I want to sing a good day for her. I asked, puzzled, how do you expect me to save her? I'm not a doctor. Coming to me is useless. She quickly crawled over and tightly hugged my leg. Mia can be saved. Please, give Mia back to me. Lisa is my biological daughter. She can't be harmed. This old woman begs you. As long as you agree to the kidney transplant, I'll serve you like a slave for the rest of my life. I stared at her coldly. I knew they never gave up on this idea, but the moment she spoke those words, my heart ached as if pierced by needles. Mia is Bob's own daughter, her own granddaughter. How could she be so heartless? Don't you know? A 13-year-old can't donate a kidney. You're committing a crime. No hospital would dare perform this surgery. Mother-in-law whispered. We can find a private clinic. Just bring Mia here. You don't need to worry about the rest. Haha, they've exploited every loophole. I turned to the police officer and said, My daughter is only 13 years old, last time it was BA hospital, and now it's a small clinic. They've tried to cut out her kidney again and again, completely ignoring the laws and regulations. Now my daughter is even afraid to leave the house. Please arrest them all." My mother-in-law followed my gaze. She rubbed her eyes, her face filled with anger. "Lucy, how can you be so heartless? We are family. I'm begging you on my knees. How could you treat me like this? My Lisa, she can't die. If she dies, I'll smash my head against the entrance of your company. So, her daughter is precious, while my girl deserves to be nothing but a walking organ donor." I stared at her intently. "Thank you for your repeated unreasonable provocations, to avoid causing trouble for the company. I have already terminated my employment contract. If you were to die here, out of humanitarianism, would buy you a stack of spirit money to send you off on your final journey." My mother-in-law was furious. After all, that was her daughter, whom she had doted on since childhood. Her mind was completely fixated on how to get Mia's kidney, and I am the only way. She rushed at me suddenly. "Lucy, my daughter is dead, so your daughter can't live either. Let's all die together." My heart was racing with excitement. One more step, and I could kick her in the chest. This is self-defense. It would be best if I kicked her to death. I wouldn't be held responsible. What a pity. They were stopped by 2 police officers. It's really a shame. My feet were all ready to go. The mother-in-law was pinned to the ground, and she shouted, "I just want to save my daughter. I've done nothing wrong. You are all bad people, and you will come to no good end." The police sent her to the detention center to keep her son company. My sister-in-law is hospitalized alone. She must be very lonely. I must go visit her. I've been going to the hospital a lot lately, but I'm really happy. I went to the People's Hospital again with my best friend. After what happened last time, they've already had a falling out with BA, so they had to switch to another hospital. As soon as I stepped out of the elevator, I heard the sound of Lisa smashing things. Heidi and I exchanged a glance. Well, some people just can't handle losing. I calmly pushed the door open. My sister-in-law's face was unnaturally flushed, and her hair had thinned considerably. When she saw me coming, a flicker of hope flashed in her eyes. "Sister-in-law, lend me your phone. Has something happened to Leo? Why isn't he answering my calls?" I didn't expect men to be so useful. Seeing that I didn't respond, she anxiously added, "Sister-in-law, Leo loves me the most. He promised me a grand wedding. That bitch Judy, she's having an affair with Leo. Go and beat her up. As long as she dies, your brother will return to you. Brother Leo will help me find a kidney donor, and I will give him a healthy baby boy. We will be together forever." She really dares to dream. I calmly took out my phone and played the few sentences Judy had just scolded her with. My sister-in-law was so angry that her eyes turned red, and she was breathing heavily and rapidly. I said gloomily, "I have no feelings for your brother. If you can get up, go beat her to death yourself." Seeing my sister-in-law so angry that she rolled her eyes made me feel much better. "Almost forgot, your mom just went to my company to cause a scene and got arrested by the police. She's in detention now." Lisa picked up an orange nearby and threw it at me. I gently took it. "You're still the best to my sister-in-law. Thank you. Get out of here." I refused to leave, pulling my best friend to sit down and finishing her fruit before leaving. Lisa died. I saw it on the news. She took a kitchen knife to confront Judy, only to end up being killed instead. Judy chopped her into small pieces and flushed them down the drain. Bob got out of detention and searched everywhere for his sister, finally resorting to calling the police to find her. With only 2 suspects, it wasn't hard to figure out. The injuries on Judy's body never healed and have been getting worse. Finally, she went to the hospital for a checkup and was diagnosed with AIDS. She was confined to the infectious disease ward, and everyone kept their distance from her. Bob went crazy. He had been with Judy some time ago. On his way to the hospital for a checkup, he was attacked by John, that doctor friend of his. Because of him, lost his job, was despised by everyone, and became a social outcast. The police arrested John, but Bob was left half dead from the attack. He also contracted AIDS, lying in bed with wounds continuously festering, maggots wriggling, and a foul stench filling the air. After being released from the detention center, my mother-in-law went completely insane. The daughter she had been longing for was dead, and her son was lying paralyzed in bed, waiting to die. She went to the company looking for me, but unfortunately, I had already been transferred to another city. I've already obtained the divorce certificate, and I have no connection whatsoever with their family. I took Mia to start over in a new city, and James the lawyer's nephew came along as well. He said, "I'm worried about Mia. There are too many bad people out there. she can't do it without me, Mia smiled happily. And how could I refuse a boy who was willing to protect her from a young age? Later, lawyer James told me that the old witch accidentally contracted AIDS while taking care of Bob. She bought rat poison and poisoned herself and Bob. It wasn't until their bodies started to smell that the neighbors discovered them. 6 months later, many illegal activities were uncovered at BA Hospital, leading to a complete overhaul from top to bottom. 23 people were sent to prison, among whom John was sentenced to 25 years in prison. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My sister-in-law is a dumb beauty, only capable of biting her lip, pouting, and whimpering. On the day of my college entrance celebration dinner, she mistakenly added toilet cleaner instead of syrup to my juice. This caused severe burns to my throat, and I could no longer sing. As a result, I was expelled from a prestigious music school, and my future became bleak. I asked her to compensate. She pressed her index fingers together, lowered her head, and said weakly, "I'm just too dumb to tell the difference between toilet cleaner and syrup. It wasn't on purpose." My brother was captivated by her fragile beauty and turned to yell at me, "It's not like you've lost your voice completely, so what if you can't sing? What's the big deal? Your sister-in-law is timid. If you scare her, I won't let you off." I lost control of my emotions and lunged at them to hit them, but my brother kicked me down the stairs, and I fell into a heap. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the day of my college celebration banquet. Today is my college celebration banquet, and amid the cheers of family and friends, I performed a live piano and vocal piece. As soon as the song ended, thunderous applause erupted throughout the venue. However, I noticed my sister-in-law quietly slipping away from the crowd and heading into the restroom. In my previous life, it was at this moment that she poured toilet cleaner into my juice. Later, when surveillance footage revealed it was her, she looked terrified and tearfully hid behind my brother, using ignorance as an excuse to shirk responsibility. The whole family was deceived by her innocent and beautiful appearance, all urging me to forgive her and settle the matter peacefully. But before I died, I heard her whisper in my ear with the most triumphant tone, "I didn't confuse the toilet cleaner with syrup. I just couldn't stand you being better than me, so I had to poison you." Mute. "You won't blame me, will you?" Snapping back to reality, I happened to see her bringing out the juice. Before long, my brother called me over. "This is juice your sister-in-law freshly squeezed for you. It's good for your throat. You just finished singing, so your throat must be dry. Drink some to moisten it." Looking at that glass of juice, I secretly swore that this time, I would definitely make them pay a heavy price. After my brother finished speaking, he turned and pinched my sister-in-law's chin, saying dotingly, "You're such a good girl." My sister-in-law playfully pounded his chest with her small fists and said in a coquettish tone, "Stop it, so many people are watching, I'll get shy." After finishing her act, she glanced at me out of the corner of her eye, pouted, and asked, "Little sister, why aren't you drinking? Is it because you think I'm clumsy and don't like my skills?" She had a stunningly beautiful face and deliberately played the role of a ditzy, charming wife. With just one frown, she could make my brother, that big lecher, completely fall for her. He immediately turned and ordered me to finish it. I rolled my eyes, picked up the juice, and pretended to drink it. The next second, I grabbed another cup, poured half into it, and handed it to her. "Sis-in-law, you've worked hard. I don't want to hog it all. Let's drink together. You were cheering for me downstairs earlier, so your throat must be dry too." Her pupils contracted slightly as she quickly waved her hands in refusal. "I already had a drink inside earlier. This cup is specially for you, little sister. Please, have it." I mimicked her pout and set the juice down. "If sister-in-law won't drink, how dare I? Don't you think so, brother?" Seeing us politely defer to each other, my brother felt quite pleased. "You two drink it together then." Saying this, he actively picked up the half-filled cup and brought it to his sister-in-law's lips. As soon as her lips touched the cup, his sister-in-law immediately shrieked and recoiled. "It's so cold, I can't drink anything cold," my brother said suspiciously. "It's not cold." He took a sip to taste it, just like every time he tasted the food for my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law widened her eyes and was about to speak, but I grabbed her hand, forcing her to turn and look at me. In those brief 2 seconds, my brother had already taken a big gulp of the juice. Before the words, "Don't drink it," could fully leave my sister-in-law's lips, he had already swallowed it. The next second, my brother let out a piercing scream, just like I had in my past life. Clutching his throat with both hands, his mouth stretched wide open, he pushed everyone aside and rushed to rinse his mouth. Pale with fright, my sister-in-law hurried after him. There was a relative who was a doctor on the scene, and they quickly examined my brother's throat. Then they concluded, the mouth and throat have been burned, we must send him to the hospital immediately for gastric lavage. After a chaotic rescue effort, my brother's condition stabilized, but he would never be able to speak again for the rest of his life, because he drank more than I did. In my previous life, I only took a small sip, but he just drank a full mouthful. My parents were heartbroken, and my brother's personality changed drastically because of his disability. At this moment, I asked my sister-in-law, my brother became like this after drinking your juice, what did you put in it? My sister-in-law looked terrified, threw herself beside my brother, and cried uncontrollably. Disheveled hair, flushed cheeks, paired with innocent eyes, that face thus gained an additional layer of fragile beauty. Big brother fell for it again, waving his hand to signal me to stop asking. Dad also said to me, if anything happens to your brother, your sister-in-law will be the most heartbroken. You shouldn't say such inappropriate things at a time like this. I'm not at all surprised by his reaction. After all, my sister-in-law is a beautiful fool. Her foolishness is her get-out-of-jail-free card, and her beauty is her protective charm. However, I'm curious to know if their tolerance for her has reached the point where they would sacrifice everything for her, so I quickly checked the surveillance footage and presented them with the video of my sister-in-law pouring toilet cleaner. The whole family was too shocked to speak. Just like in her previous life, my sister-in-law shook her head, bit her finger, and said innocently, I'm just too stupid to tell the difference between toilet cleaner and syrup. It wasn't on purpose. Who knew their bottles were both blue? I pressed further. Then why did you urgently stop my brother from drinking it when he was about to? I seized the moment to play the second video. Her words, don't drink it, rang out clearly. Her face turned pale, and panic flashed in her eyes, staring fixedly at me. Teardrops as big as beans rolled down, as if I were some heinous villain who had cruelly wronged her. She said weakly, I just wanted to say, we're trying to get pregnant. And it's not good to eat cold things, so that's why I didn't let him drink it. Sister, please don't be angry. I know it's my fault. She's pulling this again. Every time, she pretends to be innocent and pitiful. Before, it was all small things, and the family always forgave her. This time, I wonder if they can still tolerate her. I quietly looked at my brother. His face was filled with anger. I thought he would immediately confront my sister-in-law, but instead, he grabbed a pillow and threw it at me. He pointed at me, his mouth open, making sounds, his eyes wide and furious, looking as if he wanted to kill me. The next second, he took out his phone and frantically sent messages in the group chat. It's all Kayla's fault. If she hadn't been singing, Alice wouldn't have squeezed juice for her. If she hadn't insisted that Alice drink half a glass, I wouldn't have had to taste it for her to check the temperature. I sneered. Your wife made a mistake, and you're blaming me instead of her. Alice has always been naive. She meant well. What did she do wrong? You're the one at fault. You should have been the one to drink the juice, and you should have been the one to lose your voice. I turned to look at my parents. They looked at us with unease, then pulled me out of the hospital room. Dad said, your brother is emotional right now. Don't confront him. Go apologize first, and we'll talk after he calms down. I angrily replied, why should I apologize? Alice was the one who poisoned the drink. If I had drunk it too, I wouldn't be able to go to school anymore, and my life would be ruined. Instead of blaming the person who poisoned it, you're blaming me, the victim. Are you out of your mind? Although I had expected him to be biased, at that moment, my heart felt as if it were being torn apart, both sad and angry. Mom noticed my distress and immediately linked her arm with mine, silently comforting me. Then she said to my dad, Kayla is the victim in this matter. If you want to blame someone, blame your daughter-in-law. I always said that kind of girl is all looks and no substance, but neither of you would listen. You insisted on bringing her into the family. Now look what happened. She harmed our son and almost harmed our daughter too. In my opinion, they must get a divorce. As soon as Dad heard the word divorce, his gaze dropped, and his tone softened from before. He brushed us off, saying, the young couple is grieving right now. Let's talk about divorce later. Mom made her stance clear. There's no room for discussion this time. You must get a divorce, otherwise, my daughter will be harmed by her too. Hearing my mom stand up for me, my nose tingled with emotion. In my past life, she was the only one who defended me, but in the end, she was framed by my sister-in-law as a wicked mother-in-law. To support my sister-in-law, Dad divorced Mom and kicked her out of the house. Because my sister-in-law was unhappy, my father withdrew all the alimony he was supposed to give my mother, not leaving her a single cent. due to my death, she became deeply depressed and eventually passed away in a rented apartment. The landlord notified my brother to collect the body, but my sister-in-law called it bad luck. The father and son simply ignored it, allowing my mother's body to decay before being carelessly disposed of. You should know that the Duncan family's current power and influence are entirely built upon my mother's family's former strength. This time, I'm going to reclaim everything that rightfully belongs to my mother. I stared at the way my father looked at my sister-in-law. It was a gaze filled with concern and affection, strikingly similar to how my brother used to look at her. However, his gaze had a unique sense of voyeurism, not daring to look as openly as my brother did, at that moment. A mischievous idea for revenge suddenly occurred to me. In the marriage, my father and my sister-in-law played similar roles. Both were children of working-class families from modest backgrounds. After my father married into the family, he relied on my mother's family's support to become a successful businessman, leaping into the upper class and achieving a social status upgrade, but occasionally he would also complain to old friends, saying the pretentious habits of the upper class were too troublesome. At heart, he never considered my mom part of his circle. However, after my sister-in-law entered the family, he was always cheerful and smiling. He would often play young people's games with her, like badminton, and they talked more in those moments than I had with him in the past 20 years as his daughter. In my past life, I was too slow to notice the signs. Now, looking at my dad's expression again, I realize it was definitely not the way a normal father-in-law looks at his daughter-in-law. Then there's my sister-in-law. With her beauty, she attracted a large number of suitors and ultimately chose my brother, the wealthy simp. On the day she married into the family, I saw with my own eyes her entangled with another man. That man was ordinary, not wealthy, and he knelt down begging her not to marry. She turned away resolutely, leaving behind these words, "My man, Alice, must have money, power, and good looks. He absolutely cannot be second-rate. You are not worthy of me." From this, it is clear that she is a vain person. I wonder, if my brother suddenly lost his power and influence, would she divorce him and find someone else, or would she cheat on him while still married, keeping the benefits within the family? One thing I can be sure of, that is, my brother's possessiveness towards her is extremely intense. There was once a person who glanced at my sister-in-law one too many times at a banquet, and afterward, he mysteriously lost an eye. Although there is no clear evidence, I can be sure that it was my brother who did it. After my brother was discharged from the hospital, aside from remaining kind and gentle toward my sister-in-law, he often became moody and unpredictable with others. He frequently lashed out at me, sending messages in group chats calling me a troublemaker and cursing me to a lifetime of unhappiness. When my mother spoke up for me, he also scolded her, saying, "A doting mother ruins her daughter." Mom was so angry that she directly posted the video of sister-in-law squeezing juice in the big group chat, asking all relatives and friends to judge. This action infuriated my brother, who immediately left his meeting and came home, slapping Mom in front of many old servants. This undoubtedly violated Dad's dignity. He kicked my brother on the spot and scolded him angrily for half an hour. When he heard that a business negotiation had failed due to his brother's absence, he immediately announced the suspension of all his brother's duties, ordering him to reflect on his actions. His brother could only rage in futility, unable to speak. He was already feeling wronged and feared losing his current status. His father's decision undoubtedly ignited his last fuse. He ran into my room to settle the score with me. When he couldn't find me, he vented his anger by smashing everything in my room. His frenzied appearance terrified my sister-in-law, who witnessed the entire scene, especially when my brother kicked my piano to pieces. She was so frightened that she immediately ran away. At this moment, I was in the RV, leisurely watching the 12 surveillance angles from home while enjoying the air conditioning and eating an ice pop. My sister-in-law ran outside and secretly took out her phone to make a call. "Mom, Bob has a tendency toward domestic violence. He's terrifying. He hasn't hit me yet, but he's been suspended by his father. What if he takes all his anger out on me later? I'm really scared, and besides, he's mute now, with a lot of damage to his mouth and teeth. I find it disgusting. I don't want to be with him anymore, but I'm not willing to just get a divorce like this." At this moment, my sister-in-law stopped pretending to be the delicate wife and spoke normally, her eyes filled with anxiety and fear. I don't know what her mother said to her, but her face grew even more terrified. She then said, "Yes, he's so obsessed with me, getting a divorce is really difficult. And the money I'd get from a divorce definitely wouldn't be as much as continuing to live as a young mistress." She pouted and said, "Besides, if I get divorced, that Kayla will definitely be happy. I don't want her to be happy. I want to outshine her, to keep her under my thumb forever." The sheer ferocity in her tone made it seem as though she wanted to devour me whole. Perfect, this was exactly the reaction I was hoping for. That evening, only my father was at home. My brother, as usual, took my sister-in-law out to have fun. Mom, because she was angry, went to stay at a relative's house. I continued to stay in my room, eating dinner while sending messages to my dad. "Dad, the maid accidentally put my sister-in-law's clothes back in my room. Could you quietly return them to her? Otherwise, my brother will get angry again." In the surveillance footage, Dad raised his eyebrows as soon as he saw my message, a strangely excited smile curling at the corners of his mouth. However, he sent me a voice message refusing. "It's not appropriate for me to go get your clothes, especially your sister-in-law's. You can take them over yourself when you get back," I said. Sister-in-law hates it when people mess with her things. The atmosphere at home is already so tense. I really don't want to cause any more trouble. Please just quietly take care of this for me. Dad's smile grew even more pronounced as he said to me, "All right. But just so we're clear, you're the one who asked me to do this." My father, who usually walks at a leisurely pace, now rushed toward my brother and sister-in-law's room in 3 quick steps. He quickly spotted a pink-purple nightgown among a pile of clothes. If he hadn't been paying attention to it all along, how could he have recognized it as my sister-in-law's at a single glance? He held the nightgown in his hands, first greedily sniffing it, then spread it out on the bed as if he were about to press himself against it. At that moment, he noticed a slit had opened on the side of the dress. His face quickly fell. He grabbed his phone and sent me a voice message. "Kayla, how could you let this happen? The dress is ruined. Your sister-in-law will definitely be upset. How could you mess up even such a small thing?" His words were full of resentment, as if I had committed some unforgivable crime. I said innocently, "It's just a piece of clothing." "Dad, you're scaring me," he quickly replied. "Even though it's just a piece of clothing, your sister-in-law treasures this dress the most. Your brother spent hundreds of thousands to have it custom-made for her. If the two of you argue over this, the family will be in discord again." I only said something because I'm thinking about the family's harmony. I continued along his line of thought. Then what should I do? It's too late to have it custom-made now. Maybe I can buy her something similar, but I don't even know where to find it. My father fell silent, and I could see the deep thought in his eyes through the screen. I suddenly remembered something my brother once said to my sister-in-law. He said, "Every man wants the woman he likes to wear something he gave her." Thinking of this, I sent a voice message to my dad. "Dad, I'm busy with a class reunion. Could you help me handle this? Do it quietly, for the sake of family harmony. I'm counting on you." In the surveillance footage, Dad listened to my voice message and broke into a radiant smile. "Since you're busy, I guess I'll have to handle it. What can I say? I'm your dad, after all." How sweetly he puts it. In my past life, after I died, he didn't shed a single tear. At that time, I still had a breath left, and when Mom found out, she called for someone to take me to the hospital, but Dad stopped them. Back then, with reddened eyes, he angrily scolded me. "Even if your voice is ruined, you won't get into a good university, let alone marry into a family of equal status. Keeping her alive will only create more family conflicts. She's useless." In truth, he was afraid I would seek revenge against my sister-in-law, which is why he deliberately didn't let me live. My thoughts returned to the present, and I let out a cold laugh as I watched him hugging and rubbing against my sister-in-law's skirt. "Just wait, the storm is coming soon." The next day, my father personally went to the clothing store my sister-in-law often visited to buy a skirt. I had the store manager's WeChat and privately messaged her to ask about the situation. She said that after my dad left, he specifically requested a nightgown of the same style but in a different color. Just as I expected, everyone who wants to please others hopes the other person knows what they have done. If he bought the exact same dress, how would my sister-in-law know it was his thoughtful gesture? A sense of triumphant revenge began to well up inside me as I took a big bite of the sandwich. Soon, Dad came home with a new dress. He first placed the new dress in my sister-in-law's wardrobe, then stuffed the old one into his own pillow. My brother, who didn't have to work, didn't come home until late after a night out. As soon as they got out of the car, he dragged his sister-in-law into the house. Both of their faces were grim. It was the first time I had seen such genuine, unfiltered emotion from my sister-in-law. With very little pretense, she forcefully shook off my brother's hand. "You're hurting me." My brother turned around with an expression that seemed torn between scolding and resignation. Unable to speak, he just glared silently before lowering his head to send a text message. Perhaps he was too agitated, because he accidentally sent the message to me instead. Don't think I don't know how many men you've been flirting with all night. Do you think they'd actually be interested in you? They're all wealthy men. None of them would ever marry a divorced woman. I casually took a screenshot and sent it to my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law bit her lip and put on that pitiful expression again. My dad, who was eating breakfast in the distance, saw it and frowned with concern. Bob, why are you taking your anger out on your wife? A man who vents his anger on his wife is the most useless. My brother couldn't say a word. So he smashed 2 expensive decorations and stormed upstairs. Seeing this, my father comforted my sister-in-law. Xiao Jing, don't be afraid. As long as I'm here, no one in this family dares to bully you. My sister-in-law suddenly raised her eyelids and looked at Dad, her expression complex. I don't know what she was thinking, but from the surveillance camera's perspective, she tugged her skirt downward slightly. Then, she lowered her head and said meekly, "Dad, thank goodness you're here." Dad was so excited he was about to burst. His hand hovering lightly over sister-in-law's shoulder, he said gently, "From now on, whatever you want, just tell me. Bob is injured now and in a bad mood. Don't take him seriously. This family will always be under my control." Sister-in-law pursed her lips and silently took half a step closer to my dad. This small gesture further encouraged Dad, prompting him to directly place his hand on sister-in-law's shoulder. He directly said to my sister-in-law, "Kayla is a bit careless and ruined your nightgown. I bought you a new one. It's more expensive than the original. Try it on and see if it fits." My sister-in-law pursed her lips again and said, "What if Mom finds out and gets upset?" At the mention of my mom, Dad's expression stiffened slightly, then he withdrew his hand. After looking around a few times, he finally said, "Then don't let her know." That evening, my sister-in-law put on the dress that Dad had bought. It fit perfectly, however. As she walked past my brother, he grabbed her by the wrist. My brother was furious and said to my sister-in-law with his lips, "Who bought you this dress?" After some treatment, he could speak a little, but his voice was very unpleasant and his pronunciation was not very accurate. However, we could still understand what he was saying by reading his lips. My sister-in-law wasn't too flustered. She lifted her chin and said without blushing or panting, "I bought it myself." My brother grew even angrier, his face flushed with rage. "Every single piece of clothing you own was personally chosen by me. This dress definitely wasn't bought by me, and it couldn't have been bought by you either. Such a garish color. There's no way you'd like it." The dress was a vivid rose red, extremely eye-catching. Perhaps feeling she had someone powerful backing her up, my sister-in-law continued to provoke my brother. "People's preferences change. I used to like light colors, but now I prefer darker ones." She said this loudly enough for everyone in the house to hear. From the surveillance angle on the stairs, I saw my father, who was hiding there eavesdropping, flash a smug smile. However, in the next second, my brother slapped my sister-in-law across the face. He clearly heard the disdain in his sister-in-law's words, projected it onto himself, and couldn't take it anymore, so he lashed out. Sister-in-law froze for a moment, then screamed, "You really are a domestic abuser. I want a divorce." Divorce. My brother regretted it as soon as he hit her, but the moment he heard the word divorce, he lost his temper again. He directly dragged his sister-in-law back to the room and subjected her to forced intimacy. Dad was listening outside, his expression tormented and complicated. Not long after, I suddenly received a call from my mom. She said Dad wanted to divorce her. This was said right after hearing that my sister-in-law wanted a divorce, and I couldn't wait to bring it up too. At least in my past life, there was some excuse, but now there isn't even an excuse, and they want to kick my mom out. Let's see if I can let you have your way. Mom was still immersed in the sorrow of being beaten by her own son, and suddenly being served with divorce papers undoubtedly dealt her a double blow. Pitifully, she was actually reflecting on herself, wondering if she had done something wrong that made my dad ask for a divorce. I directly sent her the video of my dad harassing my sister-in-law in her nightgown. She was deeply shocked and cried uncontrollably. She would have found out sooner or later. It's better to endure short-term pain than long-term suffering. I told her to go travel first and not to answer Dad's calls. I said, "Wait until I've handled things, then you can come back." She stopped crying and asked me, "What are you planning to do? Please don't do anything foolish. You're just a girl. How can you stand up to them? I have my own way. Just don't come back for now." Mother hesitated and asked, "This kind of thing would be shameful if it got out. Your brother has just suffered a blow. If he finds out about this, he won't be able to handle it." I said angrily, "He dared to kick you in the face. Why are you still thinking about him?" Mother was speechless. "So I forwarded her a popular post from my university forum. As the highest scoring student admitted to this school this year, my name has already gone viral on the forum. Previously, it was all praise and anticipation, but last night, suddenly a smear post appeared. It exposed all my embarrassing childhood moments and even included photos. The whistleblower was blatant, directly writing the words, "Kayla's older brother, he mixed truth with lies, spreading rumors about me," in his words, implying that I have a chaotic private life and even repeatedly bullied classmates. Before the semester even started, my reputation was already ruined. The seniors who had previously taken the initiative to add me and invite me to join the student council all proactively deleted me. I can already foresee what my life will be like after school starts, being isolated and having rumors spread about me. Because every word he says is suggestive, leaving plenty of room for imagination, therefore, it's impossible to directly accuse him of spreading rumors. After reading the post, my mom cried out of anger. She said, "I'll just pretend I never gave birth to him." Hearing her response, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. My mother personally posted a video on Weibo, tagging my school's official account and some well-known campus journalists. She summarized the conflict between me and my brother in our mother's tone, then said it was my brother's deliberate revenge against me. My son can't tell right from wrong. Unable to blame his beloved wife for his own misfortune, he shifts all the blame onto my innocent daughter. Everyone here is smart. Judge for yourselves what's right and wrong. She also posted the video of my sister-in-law drugging me online. Within just 1 hour, the incident spread from my school to the entire internet. My status as the top scorer in the college entrance exam, combined with the influence of my family's company, easily attracted even more attention. My brother and sister-in-law were the first to bear the brunt, becoming the targets of online criticism. The Duncan family is, after all, one of the prominent wealthy families in the capital's elite circle. How could they have such a foolish and spineless heir? Not only did he choose a dim-witted wife, but he didn't even dare to hold her accountable after she poisoned and silenced him. Instead, he takes out his anger on his own sister. He's truly cowardly, stupid, and malicious. Is that sister-in-law really 25 years old, constantly using phrases like, "little old me"? Could she be mentally underdeveloped or intellectually disabled? An intellectually disabled person wouldn't confuse toilet cleaner with syrup. One is in the kitchen, the other is in the bathroom. How brain-dead do you have to be to look for syrup in the bathroom? That day, my phone was ringing off the hook. They're all calls from my brother. If I don't answer, he keeps sending me threatening messages to scare me. I stay calm and collected, driving the RV to a different spot to park. I continue watching the home surveillance footage. As soon as the incident blew up online, my sister-in-law was scared to tears. Neither my brother nor my father could console her, no matter how hard they tried. The entire house echoed with my father's curses. My brother, unable to articulate clearly, vented his anger by smashing things. Both father and son assured my sister-in-law that they would punish my mother and me severely. I stared at my father's face, veins bulging with anger, and felt a wave of irony inside. When I was first transferred to a new school and bullied by classmates, he wasn't this angry. He simply told me coldly to handle it on my own. I thought it was just his personality. But it turns out I'm just not important to him. After he made a promise with my sister-in-law, he turned around and called me. Curious about what he would say, I answered and quietly started recording. He began in a gentle tone, "Kayla, come back when you're done playing outside. Dad has something to tell you." Acting, I can do that too. I sniffled and put on a crying voice, "Dad, my brother and sister-in-law are bullying me. Mom already spoke up for me. Can you also record a video to back me up?" In the surveillance footage, a sinister look flashed in Dad's eyes. "All right, come back first. We'll talk about the rest later. I won't come back until my brother and sister-in-law come to apologize to me. What are you doing outside if you don't come back?" Dad's patience ran out, and he soon showed his true colors, yelling at me. I continued to play the victim. "Dad, you scared me. It's because you did wrong that I scolded you. Family scandals shouldn't be aired in public, yet you and your mother conspired to humiliate your brother and sister-in-law before the entire nation. You've completely disgraced our Duncan family name. Given your wrongdoing this time, I've decided to divorce your mother. If you still want any share of my assets, go persuade her to come back and sign the papers. As for your brother, he's also at fault. I won't show favoritism to anyone. I'll strip him of his position and kick him out of the company." He said this loudly, immediately provoking my brother, who was in the same frame. When my brother was about to lunge at our father for an explanation, he was restrained by Dad's bodyguards. Dad then hung up on me. He then pointed at my brother and angrily scolded. You went to your sister's school forum to cause trouble and ruin her reputation. This is an extremely serious matter. I can't hand over the company to you. I'll give you a sum of money. Go out and make your own way. If you don't achieve something, don't come back. My brother cowered, knelt down, and made sounds, begging Dad. Dad frowned. You two can only keep one staying at home, either you or your wife, otherwise, leave together, make your choice. Brother looked utterly confused. Dad said, this is also to train you, otherwise, how can you manage the company well if you're always love-struck? Sister-in-law pouted, nudged my brother's arm, her big watery eyes filled with pleading. My brother thought for a moment and then pushed my sister-in-law in front of my dad. He struggled to mouth the words, Alice will suffer if she stays outside. I'll go live outside, and once I make something of myself, I'll come back for her. My dad waved his hand impatiently, urging him to leave quickly. After the young couple reluctantly said their goodbyes for half an hour, my brother finally left. My sister-in-law couldn't wait to return to the living room. She hesitantly walked over to my dad. The atmosphere between the man and woman inexplicably grew warmer. Dad said to her, Alice, no one will bully you now. This home is yours to take charge of. My sister-in-law's eyes lit up with pleasant surprise as she ran over and sat down next to Dad. You're so kind, Dad. Dad raised an eyebrow and said meaningfully, since you're about to divorce Bob, you don't have to call me Dad anymore. He then added, I'm getting a divorce too. Come to think of it, we're both about to be single adults and we'll have a lot in common to talk about. My sister-in-law pursed her lips into a faint smile, her cheeks flushed with shyness. Then, she said with concern, what if Bob doesn't agree? Dad said dismissively, then you can sue him, saying he abused you. I'll find you the best lawyer to make sure you get a divorce. My sister-in-law widened her eyes excitedly and opened her arms to hug my dad. Unexpectedly, my dad dodged it, not even daring to touch her hand. He said with a serious face, not now, not yet. Half an hour later, my sister-in-law called me. Right from the start, she was full of arrogance. Sister-in-law, I have one good news and one bad news to tell you. Which one do you want to hear? I sneered, as long as you're still alive. There's no good news for me. She let out an exaggerated laugh. Well, dear sister, you're going to be depressed for the rest of your life, because I'm about to become the lady of the Duncan household. I've already had all your belongings thrown out of your room. I need the space for the luxury items your father bought me. Oh, and by the way, your mother's things were so outdated and tacky. They dragged down old Duncan's style by several notches. I threw them all out, so you can let her know. I sneered, how audacious to be so proud of chasing after someone else's man. You truly have no shame. She shrugged indifferently, say whatever you want. In the end, I'll be the one living comfortably in this lifetime, while both of you will suffer outside. Later, I'll give old Deng a few children to inherit the Deng family's fortune. As for you two, go live as paupers. Oh, right, once you've finished your studies. I might even pay you to sing for me a few times. After all, we're acquaintances. I'll make sure to pay you extra for your performance. She was practically floating with arrogance. I asked her calmly, I've recorded everything you said. Once I send it to my brother, aren't you afraid he'll retaliate? She burst into laughter. Sister, you're as naive as ever. To be honest, I already knew you had surveillance at home. Actually, I'm not afraid at all because I'm so beautiful that I've completely charmed your father. Sister, let me tell you a truth. Attaching yourself to someone with real power is the most important key to victory. Recording these things only helps me rise higher, so what if I get scolded a few times? I'm not afraid. Her smug expression didn't surprise me in the slightest. I burst out laughing. If you want to show off, you should at least wait until things are settled. You and my dad haven't done anything substantial yet. She chuckled twice. Alice, never do anything I'm not sure about. Open your eyes wide and see for yourself. The next second, she sent me a video. She was snuggling up to my dad, both of them taking a selfie without a stitch of clothing on. I quickly saved the video. She then said, although I'm not afraid of you exposing this evidence, I still think you're such a nuisance. So, I asked your brother to kill you. I narrowed my eyes and opened my brother's WeChat. It turned out that he had also received the video my sister-in-law sent over. However, my sister-in-law told them that I got her drunk and then sent her to my father's bed. My sister-in-law's voice came through, sinister and cold. Sister, how do you like my counterattack? I didn't say a word, but a cold smile curled on my lips. I smell gasoline. From the RV's surveillance, I can see my brother splashing gasoline all around me. He's truly gone mad. daring to commit murder in broad daylight. If I die, he'll be a murderer by then. My sister-in-law's path to divorce will be even smoother. No one was competing with her for the Duncan family's fortune, but how could I let her have her way? She must have calculated the timing, thinking I wouldn't have enough time to send the evidence to my brother, which is why she was gloating, but I had been live streaming the whole time. There were already tens of thousands of viewers in the live stream, many of whom were from nearby. Many had already called the police for me, while others said they would come to my rescue. Sure enough, the moment my brother pulled out a lighter, several concerned citizens tackled him from behind. 2 people pinned him down, preventing him from moving. Another person shoved the recording of my live stream right in front of his eyes for him to see. You idiot, your wife has already hooked up with your old man, and you're still foolishly acting as her murder weapon. My brother's eyes widened in fury, and he let out a long, anguished roar. Utterly heartbroken, more and more people gathered around, all pointing and whispering about him. He fled in a panic, disappearing into the crowd. The incident quickly spread across the internet. Mom officially filed for divorce from my dad. That same day, I accompanied Mom back to the Duncan residence. My sister-in-law sat in the living room with an indifferent expression, facing us with the demeanor of the lady of the house. You don't actually think that exposing my affairs will be enough to bring me down, do you? How ridiculous. As long as there are no actual casualties, I haven't committed any crime, and as long as I haven't committed a crime, everything in the Duncan family belongs to me. She looked at my mother with an air of arrogance. Sign the divorce papers quickly, take the compensation, and get out of my house. Mom sneered. I will divorce. But the ones who need to get out are you too. Who are worse than beasts. Sister-in-law laughed. This place belongs to the Deng family, and the one in charge is old Deng. Whoever he likes gets to stay. He just rushed to the company for a meeting. When he comes back from the meeting, he'll divorce you, you old hag. I burst out laughing. Do you know why he rushed to the company? She lifted her chin. Of course, to handle the equity transfer agreement for me, I said. Back then, the condition for my dad to marry my mom was that he couldn't cheat during the marriage. If he did, he would have to leave with nothing. My sister-in-law was stunned, then forced a laugh. No, that's impossible. I smiled and said, I should thank you for taking the initiative to send me the evidence. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to resolve this matter so quickly. My sister-in-law collapsed instantly, her legs giving way as she slumped to the floor. The next second, she broke into a grin. It doesn't matter, even if that's the case. As long as I haven't divorced your brother, I'm still entitled to inherit your mother's estate. Ha 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 ha, she's truly lost it. You've already betrayed him, yet you still think he'll keep loving you. My sister-in-law was confident. I'm so beautiful, he'd never dream of hurting me. No sooner had she spoken than my brother returned. Seeing this, my sister-in-law immediately ran over and threw herself into his arms, acting coquettishly. I was wrong, I'm just too stupid to do the right thing. I won't dare do it again. Baby hubby, you'll forgive me, right? She pouted, her eyes glistening as she looked at her brother. Her brother smiled. The next second, he scooped her up and threw her into the nearby swimming pool, pressing her head down to keep her from surfacing. My sister-in-law was drowned by my brother, who held her head underwater until she died. Her 2 arms hung limply, completely motionless. Tears were streaming from my brother's eyes, but he never let go the entire time. Without a doubt, he loved her. Neither my mother nor I expected that his love for my sister-in-law would be so deep, so we also didn't expect that he would suddenly pull out a knife, stab himself in the chest, and collapse into the swimming pool. Just like that, they died. My mother wept silently but did not call for an ambulance. My brother was pouring gasoline outside my car when she ran out barefoot to stop him. I had long been utterly disappointed in my brother. A month later, my parents officially divorced. My mother and I sold that house and moved somewhere else. My father, who left with nothing, had to work as a security guard in a random neighborhood because he was too old. His story spread too widely, and he was laughed at every day. In less than a month, he couldn't continue. Soon after, I received a text message from him. I thought it was something like an apology. Unexpectedly, it was a glaring line of text. When I make a comeback, I'll come back and finish off you and your kid. I only found out later that he had gone abroad. Someone told him there was a way to get rich in Myanmar. He quit his job as a security guard without hesitation and flew to Myanmar overnight. I remembered that I had installed a tracking app on his phone. I checked and found that his last location was in northern Myanmar. I scoffed. Good luck, Dad. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, Don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.